Good afternoon, Jared.
What's up, Jim?
What's up? Another special episode.
Special episode.
Yeah. So today, Jared and I are coming to you both in the culinary floor of the Atchison Center for Cognitive and Psychoanalytic Studies.
Exactly.
Right.
Our avatars have
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We are meeting in the unmediated real.
Exactly.
Right. The rest of you will have to settle for the avatars. So here we are. Also, I want to give a shout out to a certain Will Ryu who has anteed up and become a paying member of the Legion. So we appreciate that, Will. I've heard through the grapevine that he is now helping us achieve our goal of dinner out.
Absolutely. We're getting closer and closer.
We get closer and closer. So Legion, please keep coming on that. So
absolutely.
Appreciate it, right? All right. What are you reading this week, Jared?
So this week, we finished up the Oresteia earlier this week with the students, and then reread Oedipus Rex today, which I'm sure eventually we'll have to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just kind of colored in everything we're doing right now.
I think we should do the trilogy.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. So what am I reading? I read, we were talking just a minute ago, a short collection of essays by Freud, simply called The Unconscious, which I think is a really good starting point. Something I'm thinking about using for class. And I'm also reading Lacan's, I think it's Seminar 7, which is The Ethics of Psychoanalysis, which is a really incredible book. I've read it before, but I'm getting better at it.
Nice.
The times I go through it.
Which university was he giving those at?
I think it was the University of Paris, but I'm not 100% sure. But he had a weird thing. Like soon he's about to get kicked out of the French Psychoanalytic Association, so he's bumping around. Yes, yeah,
doing what Lacan does.
Yeah. I don't think it would have been pleasant to know Lacan. Actually,
you could be brilliant and not very pleasant.
That is true. Okay, but it's actually apropos that I'm reading Lacan, because actually, my suggestion, anybody who wants to approach Lacan, is I would actually, this is maybe heresy to a lot of people, and if Todd comes back in the podcast, he might punish me for saying this, but I would read Žižek and then read Lacan. So to me, the best expositor of Lacan is actually Žižek.
Nice.
So I would read something like The Sublime Object of Ideology and then go back and try Lacan.
Nice. Okay.
And why is it interesting? Because today we are going to talk about Slavoj Žižek, right?
We mentioned him a couple times in previous episodes, for sure.
And he's a thinker that's become very important to me in the direction my thought's gone into. I know you've been dabbling in matters Žižek
a lot. Yeah. He's actually painted Marx in a very different light for me.
Yeah.
Not that I had a bad light on him, but just a very different understanding of Marx.
Different understanding of Marx. And I think the thing, remember, like Žižek will tell you again and again and again, I'm not a Marxist.
Right. Yep.
Right. He's a Hegelian communist, which is an interesting thing. Yeah. The debate between Žižek and Jordan Peterson is fascinating.
Yes.
On Žižek's side.
I mean, the way I see it is it's like two different planes. Žižek is like up here.
Yeah.
That kind of passes.
Yeah. I don't think Peterson ever really got.
No, I don't think so.
So anyway, so Žižek is not necessarily the most approachable thinker, but though I do think someone with a pretty good background in philosophy or political sciences or even psychoanalysis could sit down with the Sublime Object and probably make sense. But what we thought we would do for our first formal foray into Žižek is we are going to do what we're calling Žižek in 4 pages.
Yep.
Okay. And a book that I've been reading lately too is, I think it's his second major work. He does The Sublime Object in 1989, and this comes out in 1993. It is Slavoj Žižek's Tarrying with the Negative. All right. And we're going to just talk about the introduction to that book.
So another great, dangerous introduction.
A great, dangerous introduction. I think we're going to maybe start a series of great, dangerous prefaces. Because what did we do a preface yet?
We did at least one. We did, it was Freud. And I'm explaining on which one it is.
Yeah. Anyway, we did do a preface to one of Freud's books. So we're gonna do Žižek's introduction to Tarrying with the Negative, because I think in these 4 pages you get the whole of the project that he's trying to do, like how he thinks about what philosophy is and what it would mean to do it in these 4 pages in a way that I think dovetails with really, frankly, how you and I think of it.
Yep.
Right. And I think it dovetails with some stuff that we've done, especially in our encounter with Sartre.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah, it's also a really interesting kind of understanding of his side of Hegelianism.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we'll
And
get
let's
into
face
that,
it,
but
we should note too, though I tend now to read Hegel in a way similar to Zizek and sort of similar to McGowan, that is a controversial read. And if it goes to the German, I'm not sure I can defend it. Right. All right. So should we jump in?
let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. Zizek's published this in 1993. Some context. This is I love this. I love Zizek stuff too because the early stuff is so like high school, early college memory for me because
Okay.
the stuff he's talking about, it's like the fall of the Berlin Wall, right? The revolutions, the Gulf War, all that stuff, which was I'm like 18, 19 years old in that way. And like so glad that I'm not gonna get drafted to fight the Russians.
Yeah.
So like I have all these memories about that moment, right? So it's like some heavy Gen X nostalgia
Nice.
for me every time I read the early Zizek stuff. All right, so he starts out this preface, or pardon me, this introduction to Tarrying with the Negative. And we should note that the subtitle of the book is Kant, Hegel, and the Critique of Ideology. Okay. So it's his first real big book, as far as I know, really big book length treatment in English of the German idealists. Okay.
Mhm.
And something that's distinctive about Zizek is he sees German idealism, in particular Hegel, right? And to some degree, Fichte, it comes up later for him, as in very important, like closely, like have common cause with Lacan.
Okay.
And that was like no one was really thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least there was I'm forgetting the name of the author. Is it Catherine Malibu had written some stuff before this was kind of like making some connections in that way, I think. But Zizek really hammered this home that there's a Lacanian read of Hegel and a Hegelian reading of Lacan that's very fruitful. So that's kind of what we're going here, because in this introduction, he talks about Lacan.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And so really, like in a lot of ways, like Zizek was the one who put Lacan on the map of contemporary philosophy beyond just like considerations of like psychoanalysis.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so he
Real
yeah,
quick,
go, yeah.
does Lacan get into Hegel a lot?
Okay, so Lacan had he had studied or had been present in these famous lectures by Kojève on
Okay.
Hegel. Okay. So he's got that
Kind of in the background a
yeah,
little
he's
bit?
got that reading of Hegel through the Kojèvian lens that sees the master slave dialectic
Sure.
as as the central most important moment of the phenomenology of spirit.
Okay.
And so what Kojève did, he takes the master slave dialectic and he uses that to like do this really interesting attempt to make like Heidegger and Marx like play on the same plane. It's
Okay.
interesting, but a lot of people think it has precious little to do with Hegel.
Okay.
Okay. Because they're thinking like, why does the book go on
Mhm.
after that point?
Yeah.
Right. And that is like very early in the narrative. Right. And so, but Lacan very much has that Kojèvian read on it.
Okay.
And he's dismissive of Hegel in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, especially say you read Seminar 7, Lacan, he's got what he thinks is a Kantian bent.
Okay.
Okay. But what Zizek is trying to do here, and he did earlier in The Sublime Object, there's an incredible introduction to that one. We'll do that definitely.
Nice.
Where he makes a case that no, actually, like Lacan is unbeknownst to Lacan, actually Hegelian.
Okay.
Right. So, in Zizekian, like classic Zizekian form, he's doing a Hegelian dialectical reversal on Lacan to inform him that he's in fact Hegelian. Right.
Yeah.
So like this is the kind of gamesmanship that you get from
Nice.
from Zizek. That's why he's never boring. Right? So yeah, very good. Right. Okay. So what Zizek starts out doing is he talks about the revolution, right? The Great Revolt in Romania in, I believe it was 1989, right? Where Ceausescu, who was this like brutal dictator, was ousted by the people. Like I think literally hung. Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And now Zizek notes, though, I mean, it turns out that whole thing was a sham.
Yes.
It was a sham. It was a put on from like one side of the secret police was basically cooing the other side of the secret police, and they co-opted everybody in thinking there's a democratic revolution going on, and people bought it, and they did the bidding of one side of the power structure for the sake of themselves. Right.
Yes.
Which, by the way, we're going to see in a minute here. That's a very Zizekian point.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Big brother may not exist, but he still insists.
Exactly.
And whether you know it or not, you're doing the big other's bidding.
Yes.
Right?
And I thought
Yeah.
the fact that he talks about the signifiers or the symbols that they still continue to use or disuse,
Yes.
right? So they ripped the communist
Yes.
piece out of the flag, which is actually on the
Yeah.
cover,
So
as
this,
you pointed out, to show like the thing is over, right? But
yes.
the people in power were still in power. I
Yes.
think
this is going to be very important as we go forward. So you can, if the viewer can see this, and if you're
you
listening,
got like the flag going this way, and there's that big hole right there.
yeah. And so you can tear the communist symbol out of there. So there's an absence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a no thing there. However, it still has the shape of the symbol.
Yep.
So have you really liberated yourself here or not?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. We can't say. And so, but it's important. So I do think it's important for what Zizek's doing is to say that this was a sham, was a put on, right? However, he does say that this was a moment of the sublime in the Kantian sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He uses that word sublime. Remember his previous book was the sublime object of ideology. Okay. What he's saying here is even though this was a sham, it was just one aspect of the big other, the dominant ideological paradigm, reorienting itself to like keep control in a new way, right? It was sublime in that inasmuch as the people really thought that the symbol was being torn out and they could occupy that absent space of where the symbol was, they just for a bit could sort of see through the ideology into the real. Okay. There was a liberating moment, right, of sublimity here.
Yes.
Right.
And he calls it open.
Openness. Yeah, an open space. And like, so for Kant, the sublime it has different versions of it, but the short story is the sublime is when we encounter something in nature that is so beyond our ability for comprehension that we realize there is a noumenal realm out beyond our current like phenomenal framing. What Zizek's saying here is that seeing for the first time in their lives that the master signifier, the symbol that held the whole thing together under that terrible regime, to see that torn out in the absence there, let them see through into this liberated space, however briefly.
Yes.
But of course, immediately someone's going to fill the hole in that flag and we're back to work. Right. Right. Okay.
And he probably wouldn't say this, and maybe I'm wrong, but that means also like, so you got that brief moment of sublimity, but ultimately, even that brief moment was covered in bullshit.
It's covered in bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
they were being lied to the whole
Right.
damn time. Yeah.
Right.
100%. Okay. And this is sort of like Zizek's, what does he call? I think sometimes he calls himself like a pessimist, optimist, or an optimistic pessimist. There can be these moments of eventful liberation that are complete horseshit. Right. Every time I read Žižek, I think of the Who, right? Like
absolutely
the name of the new boss, same as the old boss, right? Okay, so there's a passage that I've got underlined here. I'd like to have a look at. It's on the literally page 1 of Zizek's text. If you're following at home, I hope you do. Zizek says, "What really matters is that the masses who poured into the streets of Bucharest, quote, scare quote, experienced the situation as scare quote open, that they participated in the unique intermediate stage of passage from one discourse, social link to another, when for a brief passing moment, the whole in the big other, the symbolic order became visible. The enthusiasm which carried them was literally the enthusiasm over this whole, not yet homogenized. I can't do it. Made a hegemony by positive ideological prospect, any positive ideological project. All ideological appropriation from the nationalistic to the liberal democratic entered the stage afterwards and endeavored to kidnap the process, which originally was not their own." Okay, sorry, I botched reading there, but so what's he saying? So on the kind of Lacanian view of things that Zizek has in mind here is the human unconscious is structured by what he calls a symbolic system. And sometimes we'll call it the big other. Okay. And we've talked about it, I think, earlier on the show at certain points, but what is this symbolic system? It's at some point, someone just said, here's the words you're going to use, damn it.
Yep.
And you don't get a choice. Like he associates it with Freudian castration. Right?
Yes.
Like your dad came up and said, this is your name. That's mom. I'm dad. You get out of her lap. right? Right.
Yes.
Go find your own. And here's the rules of the game that you have to play by.
Yeah.
And thereafter, on the Lacanian view, there is like in an essay I just wrote, I talk about it this way, is like there's like an AI program running in your background. That's the unconscious superego, right? It's this implicit symbolic system that you're probably not even consciously aware of that you just work by, right?
Yep.
And the problem is like dad isn't perfect. Okay. And dad put his foot down on something arbitrary. And so there's always a gap. There's a hole in the symbolic system
Yes.
that we can't bear to admit, because if we admit the big other, the dad, doesn't know what the hell he's doing, then nobody knows what they're doing, and we are on the hook to decide something for ourselves. Okay. And so what do? We imagine, on the Lacanian way of putting it, right? For Freud, we fantasize a covering over that hole.
Yes.
Okay. Under Ceausescu, the fantasy was this communist paradise, right? The master signifier that covered the gap was this communist commitment.
Yeah,
right?
I was just going to say the term he uses is master signifier.
Master
right?
signifier.
And by that, he means master slave, right? Like he's talking about the master using the signifier, or at least the master enacting the signifier.
Yeah, it's like in Lacan, he talks about the discourse of the master.
Okay.
Right. And like somebody put this down. Boom.
Yep.
This is the point around which we will orient everything.
Yes.
But that's precisely the point that covers the fact that we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And so for Žižek, the big other at some point is revealed as stupid, right?
Yes.
When somebody tears back the master signifier. And
in
that moment, you can see what he calls the real, which is like the sublime. He uses the French word jouissance, which kind of means enjoyment, but it's enjoyment so much that it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
You get a glimpse of the sublime out beyond the big other's system, right? You step into the real. Okay.
Have you ever seen the movie The Death of Stalin?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you want to talk about this
really
all in a single movie?
Yeah.
It is all revealed, man.
I'm sure. I will bet you Žižek has a paper on.
You have to watch that film, because that everything you're saying to me, I'm like, that is 100% what's being revealed in that film.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. So at certain times, Lacan talks about the big other as the subject supposed to know.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, I don't know what I really want. Dad has to tell. I keep pointing to Jared and say, Dad, let's not go too far here. He is a lot taller. Anyways, like, I don't know what I want, but Dad will tell me what I want. And so it better be the case that Dad knows what the hell he wants, and what he wants is the right thing.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
But what happens in like this moment of evolution, it's revealed that Dad's an idiot.
Yes.
Dad's a moron. Dad is stupid. Yeah. He doesn't know what he wants any more than anyone else. Right. And thereby the whole symbolic system that's unconsciously governing me is just for a moment thrown out. Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like I love that he says he talks about ideology a lot, because what he's talking about, to me at least, is kind of the dream of ideology, that you're getting this one moment to say maybe the ideology that we're holding up can actually work. Yeah. But then you realize, like, oh wait, never mind, it's all covered in bullshit.
What ideology is for Žižek is it's the symbolic system of the big other.
Yep.
It's that implicit thing that we don't talk about, we can't talk about, but we imagine something over it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Scruton kind of explains it in a quasi similar way. Him and Žižek wouldn't agree on a whole lot.
I would have paid big money for that conversation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now that's somebody who could meet on a plane, probably. Yes. Right.
Both German idealists.
Yes. Of course, Scruton kind of on the Kantian side of things as well, but definitely German idealist. But he would talk about ideology as kind of this like ether that floats among a people. Yeah. And it's kind of like controlling things in a way, and we're all kind of looking to it or smelling it, and it's helping us do it, but it doesn't mean shit. Like there's not really anything going on.
And so so Dad comes in the room and says, get on Mom's lap.
Yeah,
this is your real name. Go outside and find your own. All that. Now I have to imagine myself now, right? So what am I? Well, I'm a good son, so I do what Dad says.
Yep.
Right. Or I imagine myself as the rebellious son, and I tell Dad to go to hell. But notice, I'm still defined by the unconscious symbolic system.
Yes.
Like I have to know not just what I'm told to do, but how I ought to rebel against it if I'm going to rebel against it. And this is why Žižek says the law always entails both a guilty obligation and its perverse transgression.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing great about the adulterous affair if the big other doesn't say we don't approve that sort of thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
what makes it sexy?
Yep.
It's only because it's a perversion of the given law.
Yes.
Right. So for Žižek, there's no really like beating the big other.
Mhm.
Like if you go with what everybody does and imagine yourself as a good, you know, communist citizen or a good capitalist citizen, whatever, right? You know, a good husband, good father, whatever, right? You're playing the big others game. But if
Mhm.
you're like, oh, I'm gonna like show how transgressive I can and how beyond this traditional stuff I am, so I'm gonna go like cheat on my wife or join the Communist Party, whatever. You're still defined
Mhm.
by what dad told you,
Mhm.
just negative, right? And that's why though he says like in that passage we just read, immediately this gap, this sublime gap into a frightening but liberating real gets co-opted into capitalistic nationalism,
Mhm.
right? Immediately, right? Because we humans, this is I think what's important for like, this is where Zizek's different from Sartre. Well, maybe not entirely, but we can't get by without presuming a subject's supposed to know.
Mhm.
Right? Like you can try all you want to say, I'm beyond that. I don't need a subject supposed to know that I can like defer my life to. She's actually like, whatever. Right? Like that kind of anxiety is not livable for humans.
Yeah.
So we'll always, in the end, go back and reconform, but occasionally we can catch ourselves in the act. And
Yes.
that's where the liberation comes.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's where he gets into like the role of he calls it the critical intellectual.
Yeah, I love that. You want to do that?
So he says, and the duty of the critical intellectual, if in today's postmodern universe, this syntagm has any meaning left, is precisely to occupy all the time, even when the new order, or as he says, the new harmony, stabilizes itself and again renders invisible the whole as such, the place of this whole, i.e., to maintain a distance toward every reigning master signifier.
Yeah, I love that.
It's to recognize the BS, right? Like,
yeah,
it's to
what is the critical intellectual to do? What is the philosopher to do? What is right? What is the analyst to do? Constantly just be tearing that band-aid off the flag. Constantly, like you think you've stepped out of the ideological into the real. Yeah, guess what? Big other's a moron, and I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you.
Critique it all the way down.
Just keep critiquing, right? Because for Žižek, if we don't do that, we are going to fall into some ideological conformity unawares.
Yeah. Exactly.
And this to me, I mean, I think this, I don't know, maybe Žižek this to me is what it is to dare to think for oneself.
Absolutely.
Right. To constantly be subverting, like looking for the unspoken ideological commitment in what you're doing.
Yes.
And however you're imagining a fill of that gap to tear that back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think even if you find a master signifier that kind of conforms a little closer to your ethical worldview,
yeah,
that you still have to critique it.
You
still have to go, wait a minute, but not everything's perfect because the people running the master signifier might be idiots.
Žižek would say they are, right?
There's no might.
There's no might. For Žižek, Donald Trump is no less a victim of the big other than you and I are, right? Always fair here. Like Barack Obama is no less a victim of the big other than you and I.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? That no one is exempt from deferment to the subject supposed to know. And so, whoever's literally in charge of our lives, guess what? They're morons. They don't know what they're doing. Like how Žižek will put it, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm a moron. I don't know what I'm doing. And this is the thing with Žižek is like nobody knows what the hell is really going on.
Yeah.
Because we're always living in this like imagined way of orienting ourselves in this symbolic.
Yeah.
Right. No, we might even have mentioned this in the show before, but a text that I've actually written about in my book that's coming out by Žižek, he talks about there's only 3 options for it. Like we only have stupidity to pick from. And there's 3 species of stupidity. Like for Žižek, a moron is someone who is like dumb enough to actually think the big other knows what he's doing. Right. So it's just the vulgar, unthinking conformist. Right. The idiot is someone who realizes the big other is stupid, but thinks that they are smart. They can decide. They can go out on their own and operate without a subject supposed to know. And I think for Žižek, the first of those 2 just get you a high body count one way or another.
Sure.
Right. Okay. And then there's the imbecile, and the imbecile realizes the big other doesn't know what he's doing, nor do I.
Yes.
Right. It's like I admit, like that guy's a moron.
Mm-hmm.
The man is a moron, but it's not like I have a much better idea.
Right.
Right. And all I can do is tear the Band-Aid and like have moments in the reel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's look back at some text here. Let's see. One more. So if you go over to, let's see, what do we want to make sure? Okay. So should we go in and get to where he talks about what he thinks philosophy is?
Let's do it.
Okay. So he actually says here,
Said kind of near that philosophy begins.
Yeah. Where are you?
This is the second page, I believe. Or no, got page 2. A little bit further underneath where we were reading right there.
Where are you?
Right around like right here.
Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Just go to. Oh yeah. I see. Yeah. That's folks.
So he says, this maintaining of a distance with regard to the master signifier characterizes the basic attitude of philosophy.
Yes.
It is no accident that Lacan, in his seminar on transference, refers to Socrates, the first philosopher, as the paradigm of the analyst. In Plato's Symposium, Socrates refuses to be identified with agalma, the hidden treasure in himself, with the unknown ingredient responsible for the master's charisma, and persists in the void filled by out by agalma. I'm getting a problem with words today too. But I like this.
It's Friday, people.
This last part I thought was just really interesting. So it says, it is against this background that we have to locate the amazement that marks the origins of philosophy. Philosophy begins the moment we do not simply accept what exists as given, i.e. it's like that, or i.e. law is law, which I immediately thought of the Oresteia because that's said so many times in that.
Yeah.
But raise the question of how is what we encounter as actual as also possible.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So what he's saying, right, is Socrates is the paradigmatic philosopher because Socrates is the paradigmatic Lacanian critical intellectual.
This is huge.
Right? This is huge. Yeah. Right. Because what does Socrates do? He went around Athens and pointed out that the big other is stupid.
Yep.
Right. The big other, whoever's running this does not know what he's doing. Right. And he took all the symbols, whether it was like, think of the euthyphro, piety. He's like, you know what? Let's tear that out of the flag. There's just a gap there. You don't know what you're talking about. Justice, right? Like every symbol, he attacked it, showed that really nobody knows what they're saying when they say these things. It's just a cover of an absence.
Yes.
Right. But in the absence is where we hit the real.
Yes.
And that's the Hegelian piece here.
Yes.
It's like you need the shape around the absence, but it's in the absence you find the real. There's the dialectical thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Socrates didn't show up and say, I have a better idea.
He did not. I know that I don't know.
Exactly.
And so like what does Socrates do as like the icon of the critical intellectual? He says, I am not a subject who knows, and nor are you. Right. I only know that I don't know. And implicit, you guys don't either. Right. If you look at, I like this, because there's this Kantian feel to it. At the end of that paragraph, Žižek says, theory involves the power to abstract from our starting point in order to reconstruct it subsequently on the basis of its presuppositions, its transcendental conditions of possibility. The theory, as such, by definition, requires the suspension of the master signifier. I love that one because one is like he's coding Kant there with the condition of possibility. What he's saying is like, look, we all start somewhere. Nobody doesn't start with imagining themselves in relationship to some big other, right? But what do we have to do? We have to attack the foundations of our own beginnings.
Yes.
Because if we don't do that, we are falling into ideological traps and we don't even really know what harm we might be doing. You see what I mean? And so I have to like consider the conditions of the possibility of my own starting point. Like what leads me to start where I start? What ties me, what invests my libido, to use the Freudian idiom here, and what invests my libido into these symbols, into these starting points. And until I ask that, I'm just following the big other, who's a moron.
Right. Well, this is where I think we'll get into it in a second probably, but where he takes deconstructionism and just kind of turns it on its head.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like the way he handles deconstructionism, to me was one of the most helpful I've ever read.
Yeah.
And that's just in this introduction.
I know, right? Like, I think we're going to go on a Žižek streak here. Yeah. So here's, dear listener, right? You're thinking, oh, this is a bunch of like postmodernism, right? Like everything's warped. Everything's a power play. Everything it's all our beginnings can be undermined, et cetera, right? And Zizek says, yeah, but he's going to differentiate himself from the postmodernists.
Yes.
Right. I think this is important. So if you're going over to page 4, at the top, he says that, like, what if Lacan's own theoretical practice involves a kind of return to philosophy?
Yes.
Okay. So what he's saying here is already when he's writing this in 93, people are saying philosophy's over. Postmodernism here, there can't be philosophy. Okay. Now, what he does, I'm not going to read that whole thing. He talks about how postmodernism, and he cites Rorty and Lyotard, which I think are great examples of this, right? Well, I'll quote a little bit. He says, the names such as Rorty and Lyotard, their works emphasize the anti-essentialist refusal of universal foundation, the dissolving of truth into an effect of plural language games, the relativization of its scope to historically specified intersubjective community, etc., etc. Isolated, desperate endeavors of a postmodern return to the sacred are quickly reduced to just another language game, to another way we tell stories about ourselves. Okay, so he's saying, is like, look, a lot of people take this turn and say, yeah, it turns out big other's stupid. And then they just say, so there's only the relative now, right? Everything we say is just a story, etc. And they're basically saying there is no foundation for anything like fundamental moral critique at all, right? And try as they might, like using Rorty's example, they want to like defend liberal democracy. These things fall short, right? Okay. Now, Žižek comes back and says, Lacan, however, is not part of this postmodern theory. In this respect, his position is homologous to that of Plato or Kant. The perception of Lacan as an anti-essentialist or deconstructionist falls prey to the same illusion as that of perceiving Plato as just one among the sophists. Plato accepts from the sophists their logic of discursive argumentation, but uses it to affirm his commitment to truth. Capital T there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Kant accepts the breakdown of the traditional metaphysics, but uses it to perform his transcendental turn. Along the same lines, Lacan accepts the deconstructionist motif of radical contingency, but turns this motif against itself, using it to assert his commitment to truth as contingent. For that very reason, deconstructionists and neo-pragmatists, in dealing with Lacan, are always bothered by what they perceive as some remainder of essentialism in the guise of phallocentrism, as if Lacan were uncannily close to them, but somehow not one of them, end quote. Brilliant. Okay, so what's going on there? What did Plato do? He takes the method of the sophists and he turns it against them, all in the interest of trying to like divert from the subversion that they're engaging in, right? And of course, look, like the Platonic story doesn't really arrive at the ultimate truth, right? It's this promised thing, but you don't get there, right? But it's a guard against, it's like a prophylactic against sophistry, right? Similarly with Kant, okay? So what Žižek's saying here is like the Lacanian method that he's doing is a constant subversion of contingent commitments, right? But always admitting we are going to begin someplace and we have commitments. They're just contingent. And we have to always look for what we cannot possibly take seriously.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Right? And so it's like, Žižek is not post-truth. He's not post-moral commitment. If you read his stuff, he is a politically committed, ethically committed person in his ways.
Sure.
Right? Okay. And he doesn't see that as inconsistent with what he's doing, because what he's saying is, I'm revealing that which is contingent in our commitments constantly, right? So that maybe, at least briefly, I can trust myself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing I'll be wrong about that, and I'll have to start over.
Yes. Yes. You have to continue critiquing even the contingencies. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Because to me too, this just the reason it kind of blew my mind is because Lacan, I often associated him honestly with deconstructionists.
100%.
Because he gets kind of boiled into that a lot of times. But to see this as his project, now I have to read this whole book, because I'm like, that just completely flips deconstructionism itself on its head for me. Yeah. Because I associated all that with that. But it also is a really interesting, that we're at a moment where psychoanalysis and philosophy are going to go like this. Yeah. But it's always been that way since Socrates, is what he's saying, right?
Since Sophocles. I would go from
Sophocles, even Sophocles. Yeah. Oedipus. but it's just an interesting, like, through Aristotle and the like, there was kind of this little bit of a separation going along.
Because think of it like, sorry, Rob.
Go ahead.
So for Žižek, like say for Derrida or Rorty, and we'll do some of that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. But I'm showing my partisan cards here. Right?
Sure.
Though I had the good fortune of like actually spending time with Rorty, and it was like a profoundly life-changing.
Really?
Yeah.
I've only read one book by Derrida. But.
Yeah, he was like a guest at St. Norbert my senior year.
Nice.
And it was very cool. Anyway, but I admired the man. Anyway, like a classic deconstructor is a Derrida, a Rorty, a Lyotard. It's just deconstruction all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just turtles all the way down, and you're just always going to throw out, find the subversion. Žižek is saying here is no, what we end up doing is we tear the Band-Aid off and we glimpse the sublime.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that sublime, we couldn't have gotten access to it but for the contingent process we went through. This is the Hegelian piece, right? Is that for Hegel, the contingent process you go through turns out at the end to be necessary to where you got. You see that? Like the famous Hegelian line here is, we can, after the fact, like retrospectively, we can give contingency the shape of necessity.
Yeah.
Right?
So you had to have the flag of the revolution, right?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
that whole has to be there.
That whole has to be there.
Yeah.
All the crap put on revolution had to happen. That let us tear it off. We see the sublime in those contingent circumstances, and it will immediately, the contingency will re-enter it.
Yes.
And we got to start again. The dialectic continues.
Yeah.
Right. But what's the point of it? It's not just to subvert for subversion's sake. Right. It's to subvert so that the sublime object can be there. Be open for a brief moment. And then we're going to go back and run it again. Always starting again. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like what he's saying is like constantly tear off your own Band-Aid. So like the real can bleed out a little bit there. But no, you're going to have to cover that back up and like go back into something new. But then when that gets too comfy, you got to peel the Band-Aid back.
Which goes right back to the point of this podcast.
Yes.
Right? Like that's what we're calling people to do. And with themselves, with the ideologies surrounding them, with the idea of the big other, all that stuff is like take a look and be okay with what's on the other side of that. Like the journey's worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, remember that sublime, it's sublime because it's a gap in the symbolic system you're in. It's never going to be comfortable for you to say that's the real about me. Yeah. It will be uncomfortable. Yeah. Right. It's not pleasurable. It's jouissance. It's enjoyment. Right.
Right. Exactly. Well, sublime in Kant is not always supposed to be pleasurable, right? It's actually sometimes a little scary.
Yeah, by definition.
Like if you're up in a mountain, range, and you're like, holy cow, I'm nothing. I'm nothing compared to this thing. But it's sublime in the fact that now I'm getting a numinal space.
Yes.
Right. So I'm experiencing that, but I'm also scared out of my mind.
And remember, like the sublime outside the symbolic order for Žižek and Lacan, right, and Kant and Hegel, all that has no shape. It only has a shape given the tear that's there, right? Yeah. So you see what I mean? So like that's why the truth is contingent. Without the contingent whole, right? The sublime is not an object for us. Yeah. It's too vast, right? Yes. It's with that when we go through our current moment of tearing process, that will create the gap or reveal the gap that gives the sublimity the status of an object, a partial object, right? The le petit objet for Lacan, it's a partial object, never the full story. But without our personal contingencies, without our cultural contingencies, it would not be an object for us. You can't just dump everything. It's interesting. Žižek gets in trouble with his colleagues on the left for defending the Christian heritage of Europe, even though he's an atheist, right? He's like, well, here's the deal, man. That provides the whole where we can see the sublime. And guess what? We're stuck with that. That's our contingent history, right? You know what I mean? And you can go in a lot of directions.
I was even as an individual, you can say my family of origin, right? That gives me something to look through. Right. Yeah. So certain attitudes or certain traumas I might have based off my history, that still gives me a hole to look through.
It's the perfect Freudian example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Without your father's overwrought discipline, right? There would be no itch to scratch that gives a gap
Yep.
in the symbolic for you to see through.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And this is the retrospective part of it, is like use the Hegelian metaphor, is the owl flies only at dusk, right? You're only looking back can you see how you had to go through that to get here so you could see through. Right?
Yes. Yes. Which is the contingency,
You can
right? That's what he's
100%.
operating on.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see, like, just, man, in this small text by Žižek, to read it and to get it is to understand Freud, it's to understand Lacan, it's to understand Hegel, right? Simultaneously. Like, that's the sign of like a really fruitful thinker.
Yes. Now I need to go to a Lacanian psychoanalyst and get analyzed and go through the process.
Oh man, I'm tempted every day, right? Right? Like, then it's, do I really want to?
How far to that sublime do I want to go?
Yeah, do I want to scratch that itch? I don't know. Right. Right.
Yep. But
yeah.
I love his call to philosophers to be this way, because to me, people who rest on the laurels of some contingent, whether it's a person, some kind of like, sanctified, whatever, a certain body of knowledge, and they're not willing to tear away some of those things. I would say you're not doing philosophy.
Right.
You're just carrying on somebody else's, understanding of
You're deferring your life to the big other.
to the big other.
Now, at some point, we're all going to do that.
Sure.
But do I need to do that unreflectively?
Exactly.
Right.
That's the thing.
And if I don't admit the big other is stupid,
yeah,
then I never get the gap in the symbolic order wherein the sublime could become an object for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just Žižek on 4 pages, man.
There it is. I know. Yeah, because I was reading this, and like a couple of weeks ago, I texted him, we need to do this 4 page. Right. Like, we have to do these, right? Because it summarized Žižek. I think it really summarizes a lot of what we're trying to achieve in our own lives and
exactly
in the show. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
This was a fun show.
Excellent, man. So let's hope by next Friday, you have revealed again the big other is stupid.
There we go.
And have thereby torn a hole in the symbolic order that dominates you. And I will do my best.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just hope I don't get seasick.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's going to be some vertigo involved
exactly.
here, right? So.
Cool.
All right, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, 5-star reviews. Those all help out the cause, right? Help us spread the word that the big other is stupid. That's what we want. And if you're in a position to do it, help us out on the Patreon. There's gonna be more material coming up there soon. So we appreciate it. And I appreciate you, brother. This is fun. You bet.
All right.
Take care.